Today, I want to talk to you about 5 rules that I live by now that I am 50 years old that I wish I had known when I was 30. Welcome to First Responder Fitness with Carl Wimmer, where armor is forged through mental, spiritual, and physical preparation. Welcome to First Responder Fitness with Carl Wimmer. I'm your host, Carl Wimmer, and I thank you for joining me again this week for another episode. We have a great episode for you today, one that I am really excited to share with you. It's an episode that comes from years of life and experience, success and failure, things that I've been successful at, things that I have failed at, and hopefully I can impart some wisdom to my audience, and hopefully you'll get something out of this. But before we get into that, I would just encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't. Click the bell button so that you never miss an episode. It really helps us here at the channel. It keeps these episodes coming to you each and every week. And we just love the opportunity to come into your home or your car, wherever you are watching these episodes. And so we just really appreciate that. Well, this week is a little bit different. As you know, we at First Responder Fitness, we focus on the 3 pillars of physical fitness, mental fitness, and spiritual fitness. And today I want to talk to you about something that I wish I had known a long time ago. Today, I want to talk to you about 5 rules that I live by now that I am 50 years old that I wish I had known when I was 30. At 50 years old, and I look back over my life thus far, I've won a lot of battles. I have had some incredible successes in life. In fact, by just about any measurement, my life has been quite successful. But I have also lost a lot of battles. And I've learned a lot of things the hard way. And so if you're 20, 25, 35, I would love for you to listen closely. In fact, this episode could be directed to my children, my sons, my daughter, and anyone who is younger. If you're my age, then I bet some of the things that I say will affirm you, and you'll be like, yep, I agree with everything that Carl Wimmer is saying today. You might not. I mean, if you agree, if you don't agree, that's fine. Comment below. You don't want to just listen to me. I want to hear what you have to say about this. So there's some important points I want to bring up first and foremost. These are not like motivational quotes, go get them type of things. These are rules that I've kind of developed on my own, forged in lots of pain, agony, and scar tissue, if you will. Successes, of course, but things that I would tell my 30-year-old self. So rule number 1 that I live by now that I wish I lived by when I was 30 is your health is not an option. Your body will only carry you through life if you don't betray it, if you don't treat it like garbage, if you don't treat it like it is disposable. You only have one body. And I know it's cliche to say health is wealth, but it absolutely is, my friends. And you don't understand that until you lose it, or until you lose some part of it, which I have. I abused my body through the years of competition as a power lifter. As a result of that, I suffered a spinal fracture, a spinal cord injury, that I suffer from the consequences of that to this day. My hands are numb most of the time. Oh, well, matter of fact, they're numb 100% of the time, and the amount of numbness varies throughout the day. I have body tremors, particularly in the morning. My muscles are very spastic because of the spinal cord injury. And I have a type of palsy as a result of it as well that is mostly nerve. It mostly expresses itself in the nerves and the way my muscles contract or don't contract. So it has been tough. But beyond the injuries, beyond those types of things, at 30, you think you're invincible. At 25, you think you're invincible. I remember I used to long say I'd rather wear out than rust out. And I used to think, wear that as a badge of honor. I'd wear injuries as a badge of honor. But the fact is it'll come back to bite you. Abusing your body will come back to bite you. I know when you're 30, you think, I can get in shape later. I'll try to get in shape later. I'm going to live and party and do what I want now, I'll get in shape later. But you know what? At 50 later, let me tell you how 50 later shows up when you're 50. It shows up with joint pain if you don't take care of yourself. It shows up as low energy, hormonal issues and dysfunction, and a whole lot of medications if you're not taking care of your health. Now, thankfully, most of those don't apply to me. Yes, I have joint pain, but my energy is good. My hormones are good. And I'm not on any medications because I have prioritized my health. But think about all of the things that hit at some point when you're 50 years old, whether it be low testosterone, erectile dysfunction, joint pain, low energy, low libido, just overall malaise and lack of love for life and vitality. All of those things are a result of the decisions you made 10, 20, or even 30 years ago. The lack of care for your body eventually catches up to you. So I am absolutely dogmatic when I say that fitness is not about vanity. Fitness is about longevity. So rule number 1, your health is not optional. Rule number 2, marriage requires intentionality. I think, well, what are you talking about, Wimmer? This is a fitness channel. This is First Responder Fitness. It sure is. And one of the most important aspects of your fitness is your mental fitness, your spiritual fitness, and frankly, yes, it is a physical fitness channel. So what the heck does marriage have to do with it? Well, just ask any old, grizzled veteran law enforcement officer or firefighter who has been through a divorce. How was their physical health during the divorce? How was their physical health during the marriage leading up to the divorce? How was their mental health? And let's forget about the spiritual health. How the heck was that when they're leading up to a divorce and going through a divorce? If you are married and in a relationship with a significant other, that relationship does and will continue to affect every aspect of the 3 pillars of first responder fitness: physical, mental, and spiritual fitness. And if you do not intentionally pour into your marriage, it will drift apart and you will be living in a stale, romanceless, sexless, passionless marriage. You will become basically roommates rather than passionate married individuals. The fact is, nobody wakes up hoping their marriage fails, but also nobody wakes up with a great marriage by accident. I have a fantastic marriage, but that was not the result of an accident. And I wish I could go back and tell my younger self that, because when I was so self-absorbed self-absorbed in politics, self-absorbed in powerlifting, just a self-absorbed human being. I was not pouring into my marriage. I was suffocating my marriage. If it weren't for the patience and kindness and gentleness of my wife, I don't know where that would have led early in our marriage. So if you're just starting off in life, if you have only been married a few years, or maybe you're newlyweds, I just want to make sure that I stress this so much because it affects your entire life. That, love and the connection in your marriage doesn't just disappear. The attention disappears first. The attention and the intention. You start getting comfortable. You start assuming that they will always be here no matter how bad it gets. And it gets to the point where you wonder why you even got married. Small daily neglect compounds over weeks and months and years, and you beat each other down. An inability to communicate about all things affects your marriage. And so I just want to give you a couple practical things that you can do today to put intentionality back into your marriage, because there is nothing better than a passion-filled, amazing marriage. And I can imagine there's nothing worse than a marriage that is just dead. One where there's no passion, where there's no romance, where there's no friendship or connection. And that brings me to my first tip: daily connection. Yes, the occasional grand gesture is important, but just daily connection, checking in with each other, seeing how your wife or your husband is doing, just really caring about what's going on in their life. Not necessarily fixing it, but understanding what's going on, being present. That connection is so important. Secondly, I strongly encourage you to guard your intimacy. Guard your intimacy jealously, like it matters, because it does. You can have a thriving, romantic, spicy, hot marriage until you die, as long as you're intentional. When you first start off, you can't keep your hands off each other, and then eventually your wife gets sick of you putting your hand on her when she's trying to sleep. Well, I'm a huge advocate of scheduling intimacy. And I'm telling you right now, if you're opposed to that, it's because you haven't tried it. Everyone says, no, we need to be spontaneous. Okay, you'll spontaneous yourself into a sexless marriage. You'll spontaneous yourself into a marriage that doesn't thrive, because what are the odds of both of you being in the right headspace at the exact right time, in the exact moment where sparks can fly? But if you plan ahead, if you schedule your intimacy, if it's on the calendar, it's exciting, and you can look forward to that day of the week where it's just you and your spouse, and you're going to spend some time together. You're going to date each other. You're going to reconnect, and you're going to love one another. The third tip I'd give myself if I was to go back in time, the third tip regarding marriage is never stop pursuing your spouse. When you stop pursuing, trust me, my wife is hot, right? I know there's a bunch of other guys out there that would be happy to pursue her. And so I never stop chasing. I never stop pursuing. I never stop trying to be romantic and do the things that are important to keep our marriage tight and strong. You need to pursue your spouse. Husbands, wives, do these things. Marriage requires intentionality. Otherwise, you'll end up like the normal statistic, especially the statistic for first responders. You'll be another divorce statistic. And nobody wants that. You don't want to be another statistic. And At 30 years old, your excuses can feel harmless. Oh, it's fine. We're fine. We're better when we're apart. We're fine. She's fine. I'm fine. You know what? At 50, your excuses are catastrophic. So you can make all the excuses you want as to, and that deals with your health as well. Oh, I'll exercise later. I don't have time right now, whatever. You make the time for what you prioritize, both in your health and in your marriage. And if those two things are not prioritized, I wonder, what are you prioritizing? Are you prioritizing having beers with the boys at the bar? Are you prioritizing sitting in front of the TV and vegging out watching football? I love football. But is that the priority? Or is your health your priority? Is your marriage your priority? Get your priorities straight and stop with your excuses, because they're not harmless. Rule number 3 that I'd give myself if I were to go back in time would be that faith is a foundation. Faith is a foundation. It is not a crutch. I hear all the time, oh, religion is just a crutch for the weak. You know what? No, it's not. I hear that from people who have zero idea about true darkness and evil in the world. I hear people say, oh, faith and religion is just a crutch for the weak. And I'm like, okay, you know what? You wouldn't have been able to last a month in my shoes when I was working as a police officer in some of the areas I worked. And you are saying that I'm weak because I have a strong faith. It's just ridiculous. Cliche that is senseless and makes really is illogical. Faith is a foundation. It is not a crutch. When suffering hits your life, and it will, especially as a first responder, you will go on that call that takes your breath away. You will go on that call that makes you question every existential question, every existential thing you've ever had in your life. It'll make you question your faith, whether there's a God. It'll make you question everything. And the fact is, if you have a weak faith, if you have a borrowed faith from somebody else, it will collapse. A strong faith will get you through this job, through this career as a law enforcement officer, through this career as a firefighter. A strong faith will get you through the dark times of life, period. Faith isn't just comfort in the darkness. It brings clarity in those moments where you're searching so much to make sense out of what's happening in front of you. There's nothing that exposes a weak faith like struggles, trials, and hardships of life. And so I just encourage you to get yourself a faith that will see you through any of life's struggles. Get yourself a faith that will see you through life's darkest moments, because those darkest moments are coming, whether you're ready for them or not. Rule number 4 that I would love to have passed on to my younger self and that I hope you take serious, and it is discipline beats motivation every single time. I've done an entire episode on this topic, and it cannot be stressed enough. Discipline is freedom. When you rely on motivation to get yourself to the gym, if we just looked at the 2 things we've talked about before, the 3 things we talked about before this, your health, your marriage, your faith, if you're relying on motivation for any of those 3 things, the motivation will wane. Your motivation for your physical fitness will wane. I tell people I have not been motivated to work out in years. I do not rely on motivation. I rely on discipline. I go to the gym not because I'm motivated to go to the gym. I go to the gym because I am disciplined to go to the gym. Discipline crushes motivation. Motivation is a spark. It's a vapor in the wind. It disappears. Discipline keeps you steady. Motivation is like relying on your feelings. Oh, I don't feel like going to the gym today. I'm a little run down. I don't feel like pouring into my spouse today. I don't feel like going out on a date with my spouse. I don't feel like taking my family to church. Feelings are fickle. And if you run your life based off of feeling, if you run your life based off of some subjective internal feeling inside of you rather than discipline and logic, I question your maturity as an adult. Now, I don't take that the wrong way, and I don't mean to be rude, but adults do not rely on how they feel. They rely on what must be done, and they rely on discipline. Every man, every true woman lives by discipline. You either live by the discipline of yourself or the discipline of someone else or the discipline of nature. If you don't discipline your body to exercise, eventually nature is going to discipline you with a heart attack and obesity and diabetes and everything else. So you pick. What discipline do you want to follow? Yours or somebody else's? And rule number 5 is simply this. Your identity and purpose are critical to your life. And that's something I haven't thought about. It's something I hadn't thought about for the first 30 years of my life. Who am I? What is my identity? What is my purpose? Because I'm telling you, if you don't decide your purpose in life, if you don't become secure with who you are, the world, well, they'll decide for you. Okay. We all see the world going nuts. It's crazy out there. And if you are not secure in who you are, if you're not secure in your identity, if you're not secure in your purpose, then the world is going to beat the snot out of you. And it's going to help you decide. Okay. Because culture, they reward comfort. Culture and the culture around us, they reward complying with them and being comfortable with them. You know, if you buck the trends, if you stand on your own, that's uncomfortable. But you know what? It's also the courageous thing to do. You need to have the courage to stand for your identity and your purpose in contrast of what the world wants you to do. And this is me preaching to myself now as much as it is preaching to you. But the fact is, we need to care less about what people think of us and more about what we and the people closest to us think about us. I have a hard time with that because everyone says, I don't care what anyone thinks about me. I don't care what people say about me. I don't care. If you truly don't care what people think about you, I feel sad for you. Because I care a lot what people think about me. I care a lot what people's opinion is of me, which is odd because throughout my law enforcement career, I've had to turn in fellow officers for violating the law enforcement code of ethics, for committing crimes. I've had to go against the trends far too many times in my career as a police officer, and it did not make me popular with the cool kids many times. But you see what I'm talking about. You've got to have the courage to stand on your identity and your purpose and care more about what you and your loved ones think about you than the rest of the world. In a world where masculinity is called toxic and it's mocked, we need to cultivate it. Men, you need to cultivate masculinity in yourself. I'm not talking about being an idiot or a jerk. I'm talking about being a man, knowing what discipline is, responsibility is, protecting and guarding the ones you cherish and love, masculinity. You need to get an identity. You law enforcement officers, you firefighters, you need to get an identity outside of your career. You are not your job. And I know that's hard. I know when you're a cop, people say, what do? I'm a cop. I'm a cop. It becomes so much of who you are and it becomes your identity, but you need to fight against that because it will not last. Retirement is coming. I just lost a friend, someone who I care about, someone who I cared a lot about, who lost his career in law enforcement before he wanted to. And he had already had a drinking problem, and it just obviously didn't get better and didn't go away. And this person who I cared about, just passed away this past week from liver failure. His identity was locked into who he was in his career. And when he lost his career, he lost his identity. You are not your job. You are not your career. You are not your past failures in life. You are not public opinion. You're a man. You're a woman. Act like one. You decide. You decide your identity. You decide your purpose, and have the courage to defend it. Know what you stand for. Know what you will and will not tolerate. And then live aligned with those principles. So important. So important. Well, that's it. Those are 5 things that I wish I had known when I was younger. What would you add to the list? If you're my age or older, is there anything that you would add? Comment below. Let me know. I would love to know. To those of you that are 30, who think you have time, to the 40-year-olds who feel like you're behind, or the 50-year-olds who need a little bit of hope, I hope that this episode speaks to you. I would love to know your thoughts on it. What would you add? What would you take away? What would maybe you add additional? Let's have a discussion. This is more than an episode, though. It's a call to action. I would challenge everyone watching this to pick one of those 5 rules and just attack it with all the energy you have. Just get after life. Go out there and succeed, and start today. I encourage you to subscribe to the channel, share this episode with your loved ones, your friends, your family, your police department, your firefighter department, your fire department. Share it with everybody, and tune in next time at First Responder Fitness. I'm Carl Wimmer, encouraging you, be good to yourself, be good to others, and as always, stay safe.